do we all have the beverages that we want / need?
Yes.
And
I have my
oh my
I have
god.
my water. I have my
Yay,
almonds.
cat mom.
I have my
I've got
tea.
I've got
Hustle juice.
Nice.
my kitty teapot. Oh, hustle
Love
juice.
it.
That's cute.
Yep.
Kitty teapot.
Bob got that one. I feel like Bob bought this for me off of your recommendation, Riley. I
Dear.
don't know.
Well, I mean, I would say
This
yes.
was years ago. Dude,
How's
this
everyone
tea's
doing?
freaking delightful.
Oh,
So good.
Oh, you know.
You know.
You know.
Go. It's going.
It's
life is going.
yeah.
Yeah. I always have too much on my to-do list. So it just is. Yeah.
No, I feel like I have no one to blame but myself when I get into months or seasons like this where I say yes to too many things and then I'm busy and then I feel like that's like my entire personality is that I'm busy. I think Riley, you and I talked about this, I don't know, a few weeks ago where
was I cautioning you of saying yes to things?
I don't even know how the conversation came up. No, you know what? It was the conversation came up because Kristen, you and I ran into Julia Coney at Wappin.
Yes.
And at one point I said about Julia that I was like, "Oh, she's a busy lady." And Julia immediately stopped me and was like, "No, I'm not busy. It's not a good thing to say that you're busy." And she's like, "I'm not a busy person. I'm a person who has intentionally filled my calendar with projects I'm excited about and things I'm excited about." And then Riley, I was telling you about this, and then you said something along the lines of, "Well, I don't think it's a bad thing to be busy." And then my response, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, and I'm not gaslighting myself here, it was that in my case, I felt like it was a bad thing because I feel like when people ask me how I'm doing and I respond with, "I'm good but busy," I just hate that that's my entire personality sometimes is I have no way to describe myself other than busy. And that just feels like a shame because I have other things going on in my life that are really great and wonderful. And yes, there are seasons that I'm in where I am busy, but again, I have no one to blame but myself for my busyness.
Yeah.
Because I said yes to too many things or I didn't allocate my time well enough to give myself some much needed rest in between, you know. So anyways, what do you guys make of that? My little therapy session.
As long as you're fulfilled, I think that's kind of the thing. It's like if you're busy, but it's stuff that you're fulfilled with, it's not a negative to be busy.
Yeah, I think that was what I'm remembering, right? This is when we were at Wi-Fi, right? Or whatever.
Yeah, I think
CCI,
we were on the drive home from Wi-Fi.
Right, that like, it's not busy itself, I don't think has a negative or a positive connotation, but it's how you're using the word, right? I haven't been using the word busy, right? Like I just have this never ending to-do list and it just kind of is the reality for me right now. But I'm not saying I'm really busy. I recently had kind of an icebreaker from a person I was meeting for the first time, and she specifically asked me, rather than asking, "What do you do?" or "How have you been?" she said, "What are 2 things that brought you joy recently?" And it just kind of like shifts that mindset of, I don't need to, when someone asks, "How's it going?" and I'm like, I don't know, surviving. The political climate is what it is in the United States and in the world, right? The wine industry is what it is right now in the United States and in the world and on the Central Coast of California. And so there's not a lot of positivity in my professional life, in kind of big picture things going on in the world. And so it was that really nice reframing of, even though, yes, I have this never ending to-do list and there are things that are outside of my control that are impacting how I feel, right? I have a niece who I'm going to get to meet in June, and I'm so looking forward to getting to meet her. And she's this little joy that came into my life this year, right? You have these little bits of joy. Heather and I got to glamp 2 weeks ago in Paso in the rain, and not the best choice to do that, but it was this wonderfully joyful moment. We drank tea and played cards. I taught Heather how to play gin. Like, it was this like wonderful little thing.
I've never played gin.
It was a delight. Yeah, I had never played it before either. It was wonderful.
I love gin.
It was fun and silly and used my brain in a way that I hadn't used it in a minute. So that was cool.
Yeah, it's fun. It doesn't require any math, which is fun. My mom and my brother used to play a lot of cribbage at our house, and that's math. That's a math game where you're like making your groupings of cards like equal 15 all the time, and then you get like points for it.
Yeah, don't make me math.
That sounds terrible.
Don't make me math.
People think that's fun. That's a game. What an awful
Really?
game.
You do math for fun?
Rude.
I do wine. I don't math.
I do wine. Who's doing math?
I mean, yeah.
Well, yeah. Science. Well, I like that reframing, Riley.
It's
where
cool.
Instead of
Yeah, it just like really, it surprised me. Completely took me by surprise, and I am trying to adopt it. I'm not, I think, doing it as intentionally as I would like to, but I keep remembering in conversations that I'm having like this, right? Where I'm just, oh yeah, that's the thing, is focusing on those little things.
Yeah, I love that. Well, everyone, this is the Poor Memories podcast.
Heck yeah.
And here we are. I'm Heather.
And I'm Kristen.
And we are joined very delightfully by our very good friend, Riley Slack, who is the VP of Operations and Finance.
Yep, you got it. You did get it technically correct.
Excellent. At Foxen Vineyard and Winery here on the Central Coast. Riley and I have been friends for a very long time. Actually, you were my very first wine industry friend. I started working for Foxen in 2010.
Yeah, we're coming up on 15 years, bro.
Yeah.
What?
That's wild.
Our relationships in high school.
That's gross.
Insane.
No, I don't like that.
Boo.
Don't like that at all.
It's okay. My relationship with my best friend Lauren is now old enough to drink legally in the United States. So that was a super fun realization for me.
Oh, that's interesting.
Anyways. Yeah.
So my niece that I mentioned, who was born in January this year, this is a chosen family niece, and her mother and I, she was my first friend ever, and we have been friends for coming on 34 years.
I love that.
Wild. Like,
yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I've only known my sister for that long.
Right? Like, she's my sister, right? Like, it's just like this really cool thing that I don't think that happens very often, and I'm very aware of that, that like she and I have a relationship, and we haven't been, close friends for all of it, and we haven't lived in the same place since we were 13. There's people that come into your life that have just like that connection. It's really easy, no matter how much time or how little time you don't talk or are apart or haven't checked in. It just is an immediate pick back up. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And then Kristen, how long have you and I known each other? 6 years? Is that
6,
right?
7 years?
I don't know.
The Vintners Foundation.
I know.
We knew of each other before.
Correct.
We didn't, for whatever reason, we didn't cross paths too much until the Vintners Foundation.
We were going to, because we were going to play on a rec softball team that I was organizing.
Yep.
That fell apart because they were like, well, we're not doing the B League. And I was like, but none of us want to play in the A League. None of us are very serious about this.
We just want to have fun.
But yeah, so we were like on a text thread, I think, before actually like meeting in person.
Yeah. We're going to Oklahoma to watch.
When is that?
2028.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yes. Let's go.
For the Olympics.
So I
think it's out in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
But it's always in Oklahoma anyway for the NCAA.
Yeah.
Softball.
We should
College
go.
World Series.
We should go.
I just need to go. We just need to go. So.
That would be fun. Yeah. Heather's like, yeah.
Yeah. Just going to invite myself.
So we need to go in 2028 for sure.
Oh, I think that was a group that wasn't directed only at me. I think that was like a we.
No, that was a great, yes. Yeah. That was for the three of us to all go. Yes.
We all go to the batting cages together for the listener.
We do. And then we have been to the batting cages together.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
A couple of times. Yeah. And then we're sore for 3 weeks afterwards.
Yeah. Exactly. So we have to take some time to recover before we go back.
Us high school softball players.
Yeah. It's okay. Well, before we get into kind of the meat of this conversation, we always like to start these conversations with ourselves, with new people, about what was your aha, or one of your aha wine moments. What's a transformative moment in wine for you, Riley?
Well, I'm in a bit of a unique, not super unique, but in the big picture, unique situation in wine, because my family founded a winery basically like when I was born. So it has always been a part of my life. So having an aha moment is a little hard for me to pinpoint, because it was always something that was going to be a part of my life no matter what. In my world, right, in my home, the wine was always there. The brand as Foxen, right, just was always a part of me. I grew up half time basically at Foxen. Can we curse? Are we allowed to curse on this? Do you guys have? I just wasn't sure if you were like putting like explicit like on the podcast on like the recordings.
Fucking do it.
But anyway, yeah, okay, great. Well, just mindful for my words. The winery was daycare for me some days, right? My mom is a professional and was working as I don't remember what her position was, but she worked at the Kinko's headquarters before it sold to FedEx when I was very little. And so she was, working a whole bunch full time, and there were days where she needed to go in. So Dad took me to the winery, and I got to just, don't tell OSHA, but would just wander around in the barrel room, climb on barrels, sit on the forklift with my dad, right? He'd let me pull the things. My brother too, when my brother's a little bit younger than I am, but when, both of us would just run around. We got really good at catching lizards. It was just always a part of our lives. And so I think for both my brother and I, it was always going to be somewhere in kind of a part of that. I can talk about when I took a break from the wine industry and then realized that it was actually where I did want to be. I took a break from the wine industry. I'd been mostly working at wineries here in Santa Barbara County, and I'm including Foxen, and then took a break, went up to San Francisco and was in the tech industry and got some really great just perspective outside of the Central Coast of California, outside of the wine industry, just to see how do other people do it? What does all of the other sides look like? But I think I'd been there maybe about a year and really realized that there was something missing for me, that just kind of going to work and doing a job wasn't filling my cup in a way that I wanted it to, in a way that I felt like I deserved it to. And so I've described it to people that I felt like there was a piece of my soul that was missing. And so I was up there and trying to figure out, okay, do I leave this job? Do I try to work at a winery here? Do I go up to Napa? Do I go up to Sonoma? Right? Where does this kind of fit? Do I just get a part-time job at a tasting room here in the city at one of the little city wineries? And ultimately ended up working on how do I get back down to Santa Barbara County? How do I fit into the future of Foxen without saying, hey guys, hire me, I'm ready to come back. But where does that fit in kind of with the overall kind of bigger succession plan of who's taking charge and who is doing all of the work and leading the company and for the next 40 years when our founders are ready to be done. Yeah. So I was in San Francisco, right? So it was 2015 probably by that point. And I was just like, oh, okay. Leaving was the best thing that I did because it gave me that perspective to be able to make an active decision to come back, and not just come back into the wine industry and not just come back into the wine industry on the Central Coast of California and in Santa Barbara County, but come back to my family's winery as a part of our legacy.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
And not just go, I'm done with this, or I don't want to have anything to do with it. But it was just getting that perspective, realizing I actually want to participate in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great. And we also, there was never any expectation of that either. So I think that, not that it helped with the aha moment, but it made it easier to come back because there was never any expectation from my parents of go and do this and then come back and we'll be ready for you. Instead, they were just nope, we want you to be a happy and healthy kid, a happy and healthy adult. And if you want Foxen, amazing. We'll figure that out if and when you're ready for it. So that's been, I'm privileged to have that. I'm privileged to have a family business, right? It's a challenge, but it's also something I'm thankful for every day.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. That's I really like that you did take a break from wine for a time too, because having it be part of your life for so long, and especially being literally born into it, I wonder if it kind of makes you feel a little bit more jaded by it.
I mean,
a little bit more quickly.
I think so. I think that's true of a lot of things, right? You can kind of equate that to house palette, right? If you're you just this is what I know and this is what I do, and so these are the wines that I consume all the time, drink all the time, and then you're do I even like them anymore? Right? They get maybe less exciting. I don't believe that about Foxen wines in the slightest. All of our wines are phenomenal, and I actually don't even drink them that much, and I get surprised. I'm like, fuck, this is really good. Which is wonderful. But right, so you do have people that where there's, this is the wine and this is what we make, and that consistency year over year, and you can get potentially a little bit bored, or you just have kind of those blinders on of just this is what it is without having that external perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it's almost needed, I think, for any, there's kind of this succession, great show, by the way, but whenever there's a family business and you've got kids who are eventually maybe going to take it over, I feel like it's so much more powerful if the kids can gain perspective, doing other things, majoring in other things, traveling around, doing other things. So it's not just this handed to situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
you have to bring in life experience into the business, because that's even how it got formed, right? Your parents had their own life experience and then they formed Foxen. And so it's you need to kind of carry on that idea of gaining your own life experience and then bringing it to the business versus just walking into it.
Absolutely. I mean, so our co-founder had a whole life before he came back to his home ranch in Foxen Canyon and was like, Billy's a really good friend of mine. We both like to drink the same wine. Let's see how this goes, right? Like in the mid 80s, right? So he had been an investment banker and had at some point went and, lived in a van with his family in Europe for 2 months, right? Had all of this stuff and made it, an intentional choice to come back to Santa Barbara County and then another intentional choice to start a winery. So I think giving that opportunity of giving that space for intentional choices when you're looking at like potential multi-generational businesses in wine or without, I think is super valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I feel like maybe this dovetails really nicely into kind of what we were thinking we'd talk about today. We wanted to ask you, Riley, how's your mental health lately?
I mean, it kind of like also dovetails, right? Like from our little opening chatter of just like never ending to-do lists, feeling too busy in air quotes. It's okay. I'm working on it. I actually started therapy in February, I think, which is awesome. I've always been I love that you said nice, right? Like that's the reaction, right? Rather than right? Like right? Like the nice is the sick. You're making space. You're making space for it. You can afford it because that's a whole other fucking thing. Right, but like that's the reaction that I hoped for, and hope that with us talking about it today that we can actually get more people to being yay. There's a generational thing with that as well. I think millennials are starting that process with a higher portion of us in active therapy without having like some specific trauma to lead us there, of just like hey, I'm not feeling that great. Maybe I can have a professional help me to feel better, rather than having to be like dealing with like some sort of like specific moment or specific trauma.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm doing okay. I'm learning a lot. I'm again like in a position where I'm feeling privileged that I can afford to go to therapy. I'm going weekly and it's awesome. I'm feeling very lucky and thankful that the therapist that I found, I really like and connect with from the first appointment, which is not true for everybody.
Yeah.
I've had some friends who have been doing therapy for years and, they were just like, just remember, you can fire a doctor. If they're doing, like, if they're not giving you information that feels like is right for you, then you can fire them. Like, that's okay. You have the power to do that.
Yeah.
And that's...
I think a therapist too... Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I feel like a therapist too should help you reframe, not just listen.
Yeah, or
what is listening? Listening is step one.
Yeah,
but...
tell you to. just as an example, a friend of mine, had a therapist that was, I think going to church might be good for you, and she was like, no, thank you. That doesn't serve me. I have no interest in that. She grew up going to Catholic school, and her family was Catholic, and then she was like, how does that fit in to what I'm trying to do with my life? Absolutely not. And then she fired him. Right? Bye.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that reframing, which is great. And it's something that is powerful. And I'm working on prioritizing, just going to therapy in general is prioritizing me so that I can show up at least working towards my best self, both personally and professionally. I feel like I'm usually pretty good professionally, but just kind of like drowning in work all the time. So there's that of kind of figuring out how do I manage that while still being able to be my full self that I want to be.
Right. And having the good I also go to therapy, and I'm lucky and fortunate enough to have found a therapist where I can just kind of show up and be like, girl. And then we just kind of get into it, and it just actually feels very casual, but we get into it and it's fun.
Yeah. Something that I found, and especially for folks who have never done therapy, where like I'm in no sort of way an expert. I'm on my 7th session or whatever, right? Like I, again, had friends who had been doing therapy for years, and they were just like, so when you're meeting your therapist, like potential therapist for the first time, if you have an initial session or a second session, ideally therapy should, it might be hard while you're in it. things that they're like, hey, like maybe something to work on at home. And that might be a little bit hard to do, but you should feel lighter or lifted after a conversation that you've had with a mental health professional. You shouldn't feel like you're being judged or, you know, lower than you came in, because the whole point is to help you to be your best self.
Right.
Yeah. That's actually why I fired my therapist. I haven't gone back to therapy yet. And part of that is, Riley, you know this about, well, you both know this about me, that I have ADHD, and that makes it hard for me to do things that I perceive as hard. So finding a new therapist just feels so daunting to me that I haven't even started the process. And I know it's one of those things where I'm like, once I start the process, I know it's not going to be as much work as I'm making it out to be. That's neither here nor there, but I fired my last therapist because every conversation I left feeling drained and awful, and I felt like I couldn't carry on with the rest of my day.
Yeah, that's what? No, absolutely
which
not.
was which was awful. It was, you know, just felt terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is helpful for me to hear kind of what your experience is with having a therapist and how it should feel, or how it feels for you.
Yeah.
Because then that'll make it a little easier for me to kind of be like, okay, well, this is what I would like to find.
Yeah, right. Like there's and it can be a journey, unfortunately. Same as finding any medical professional, right? Like especially in the current world where we are lacking in doctors and lacking in medical professionals, especially in an area middle of Santa Barbara County where we're small and rural and there aren't a lot locally, right? Like I go to my GP in a half hour away, right? So it's just hard to do. So it can, you know, feel like a slog, or like you were saying, right? It's perceived as hard because there is, you know, that actual effort that has to go into it, and potentially a series of efforts where you have to like meet somebody and you're like, nope, that was a strikeout. Oh, nope, that was a strikeout. So I'm feeling, again, very privileged and very thankful that I had a good recommendation from the practice that I go to, their head therapist. I had kind of an initial call with her and she pointed me in the right direction. She was just like, this clinician I think is going to be your best fit. And I said, great, thanks for the recommendation.
Has your therapist given you some strategies to kind of deal with that work overload that you feel like you've been having?
We're getting there. We've, you know, still somewhat fresh, right? Like I'm on session 7 or whatever. And it's an intimate relationship that you're building with this person. They are getting to know you. And, you know, I've friends who I've known for 30 years or whatever, right? Like trying to get to that kind of a level in 7 hours basically is like hard to do. But we're getting there, you know. She's helping me figure out how to ask for help. We've been talking a lot about kind of relaxation and the difference between relaxation and decompression, because those are two different things. And I don't relax very often, which is a conversation that she and I have been having. I'm not a journaler. I've never been a good journaler in my life. And journaling is a really, really great therapeutic tool. Huge. I'm not a good journaler, so this feels like homework that I don't want to do. But she helped me to reframe that of just like, journaling doesn't have to be written prose. It can be a brain dump of whatever you want it to be. You know, she also gave a good reminder that when you're trying to find ways to lessen your stress, relax, or decompress, right? To be mindful that if you feel like you don't have enough time in the day to get things done, adding things to that is not going to help, right? Okay, I want to do yoga twice a week. Where does that fit in? How are you going to be able to do that when you already feel like you can't get enough done? So it's more about taking things away, or kind of redistribution of prioritization, which does help.
Yeah.
When I'll make to-do lists for my day, and sometimes I'm drinking the coffee, making the to-do list, and then I realize midway through the day, I'm like, there's no way I'm doing any of this. And then being okay with, at the end of the day, okay, I should probably shift some things around so I don't hate myself for not having to check these boxes off today.
Yeah.
And just feeling comfortable with being okay with having to shift things around so you can get things done and not be so hard on yourself.
Yeah. It's hard. I don't tend to be hard on myself when I'm not able to get things done, but I just have this, I've referred to it with my therapist as there's just kind of this buzzing, right? I know that stuff that I didn't get done, I'm going to have to get done at some point. So when does that happen? And just trying to sit with that buzzing, that's the thing that like I'm working on getting okay with, and to like mitigate, right? Like, and let's turn that buzz into, I don't know, a soft pillow that I can just like lay down on and take a nap. Like there's only so much that we are able to get done, right? Like, and like sitting with that and being not just okay with that, but being comfortable with that. Being okay and being comfortable, I think, are two very different things. It is absolutely okay that I'm not going to get that done. We're going to be okay. And again, it's reframing and a lot of reflection, right? Like she's not telling me what to do. That is not what therapists do. They do not tell you what to do. If they do, maybe they're not the right therapist for you. Right? They are helping you to figure out in yourself what is going to work best for you. And so she's helping me to kind of figure out for me, how do I ask for help? What are things that I can ask for help on? And also like if and when I, not an if, when I get that help, what does my day look like in 6 months? What am I feeling like in 6 months where I maybe don't have this never-ending to-do list? That was actually something that we talked about this week. I was having a hard time answering, but I'm glad that we had the conversation, right? It was hard. It felt really hard to do, but I left our session feeling like, oh, I do want to focus on what is that going to feel like in 6 months, right? What does that day look like? What am I emotionally feeling? What is my connection with my family and my husband look like in 6 months? What does my connection to my employees look like in 6 months, right? What is kind of that bigger picture once I can ask for and then get the help that I need? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that. I read a lot of business books, and a lot of business books recommend like writing your obituary, which sounds really morbid, but I see where what they mean by it. So
yeah, what do you want to be known for? What do you want to, or
exactly.
how do you want to be remembered? Right. Yeah. I get
exactly.
it.
Yeah. And so they recommend writing your obituary and to kind of lay out what will people say about you when you're gone? What do you want them to say about you when you're gone? And how can you design your life to sort of reach that obituary goal? You know, I hate to call it a goal because it's like, you know, the goal to die, you know, but I found that, you know, I haven't like done it. I haven't done this practice myself, but it's something I think about quite often, especially when I'm feeling overwhelmed and like I have a lot on my plate and I'm like, I don't know where to start. I think about, I'm like, well, what's the thing that I want to be known for or remembered for and all of that. And what out of all like this huge list of things that I need to accomplish or that I feel like I need to do, which of them is going to get me closer to people saying that about me? And I don't know if that's like a healthy way to look at it, of like thinking about what do I want people to think about me, because that feels a little people pleasy. But at the same time, I do find it really helpful to help me prioritize what is on my list and what's going to get me closer to my legacy and what I want my legacy to be. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's almost kind of a weird, like more, or at least because I actually see that it almost is a little bit of a morbid practice to clue into your values every day and just use that as the driving force for what you do and how you show up every day. What would people say about you once you're gone?
Yeah, exactly.
It's interesting. I have a podcast that I think I've sent it to Heather. I don't remember if I sent it to Kristen. Anyway, it's just there's a happiness researcher named Arthur C. Brooks who what you're saying here, Heather, is like reminding me of that a little bit, of just like things that to make your life happier, more fulfilling, right? Like, what are the things that you want to be remembered for, right? What are the things that the people who I love, who I'm going to leave behind, going to say about me? Yeah.
Makes me think of one of my favorite movies. It's a holiday movie. Can you guess? Maybe.
Okay, the Holiday?
No.
It sounds like it's
Serendipity.
Oh,
the very end.
I love Serendipity.
And Jeremy Piven writes his eulogy instead of his best man speech.
I've never seen it.
I almost want to just make you. I
feel
almost want to make you watch it like right now.
I know, right? Pause. We're gonna hang on.
We'll come back. Riley's gonna go watch Serendipity.
I mean, Christmas is my favorite holiday. I feel like Serendipity has maybe like been on my list for a long time, but like also like never wrote down the list. So like, merp.
John Cusack.
Oh yeah.
Mwah. Chef's kiss on that man. Yeah, but there's a great scene where Jeremy Piven writes and reads the eulogy for John Cusack's character, but it was actually supposed to be the best man speech. And it's at the end, and it's just so heartwarming and so funny and so cute.
Yeah.
So it was the same idea.
Yeah, I'm in.
That's what made me think of.
I'm in.
Yeah, I'm writing down, because I have like this list in my head, this running list every time that we three talk, and I think when we bring in our other gals in our group, of movies that some of us have seen and some of us haven't seen, where I'm like, we have to watch this together. It's like, I think French Kiss is on that because I can't remember. Was it one of you who hasn't seen that? Yeah, you haven't seen French Kiss. Oh my gosh. Genuinely one of my favorite movies.
I think we can just do online
So
watch
good.
parties, can't we? Just
Yes.
like, we don't have to be in the same room.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can host.
we can.
I have a Discord.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, done.
I love it.
Can host.
Let's do it.
Can host.
Schedule
So
it.
Serendipity and French Kiss. I feel like there's a couple more that we talked about maybe at Kristen's
think so.
birthday.
Probably.
That we just didn't, I haven't written down yet. But once they come to me again, we'll list them and it's going to be great. I feel like there was like a funny movie, maybe like Spaceballs or something that
Who hasn't seen Spaceballs? Question mark.
I want to say
It's been years, but I've seen.
Years?
I want to say
That's like every year. Maybe every 18 months
Yeah.
or so.
yeah. Spaceballs.
It's one of the goodies.
That's a good one. It is. It really is. Yeah, Bob loves Spaceballs.
I still haven't seen Monty Python all the way.
Well, which one? Question mark.
Well,
Any
yeah.
of them. Any of them.
Any of them.
Ma'am.
Well,
I
we're
know.
going to have to start with Holy Grail. Hang on.
I know.
Oh, see,
I'm so sad.
Holy Grail is my least favorite.
Really? Oh my gosh, I love Holy Grail. Okay, well,
The Meaning of Life is my favorite. Of their feature-length films, Meaning of Life is my favorite. And then it's The Life of Brian, which is so wonderfully bizarre.
yes.
So wonderfully bizarre.
So I'm adding it to the list.
I grew up on those films, watched them way too young. Way too young.
Yeah. I
And
was
that's why
watching.
you're in therapy. No, I'm kidding.
And that's
No, actually.
That's why we're in therapy.
I think I'm actually fairly well adjusted for having watched
Hell yeah.
films that were not 6-year-old age appropriate.
Yeah.
You
Well, it's like
grew into it.
Bull Durham, too.
That is in my top 5 favorite movies.
I love Bull Durham. Have you seen Bull Durham, Kristen?
No.
Maybe we talked
Oh my
about
gosh.
that one.
Maybe that's what it
that
was.
one.
That's Kevin Costner, Susan Sarandon, Tim Robbins.
Oh, okay.
Like baby young Tim Robbins. It's actually where Tim Robbins and Susan Sarandon met.
Oh,
That's what I thought. I had a feeling.
And it's baseball. You'll like it a
it's
lot.
baseball. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Say less.
Yeah,
Okay.
you'll like it.
Maybe that can like kick off baseball season for us.
It's kicking.
Which is today.
It is today.
Yeah.
Technically.
Oh, it is today.
We're recording on opening day.
It is today.
Yay.
Kristen,
Baseball.
do you have a baseball team that you root for?
I do. Okay, this is controversial. So basically, Cali girl
Yeah.
turned Yankee fan.
Oh, maybe we've talked about this because Chuck is. I mean, he's a Yankee fan, but like, he just gets angry.
Yeah. No. Okay, so mostly grew up in California, but I was 4 formative years as a kid in Washington. And I started playing softball up there, loved going to all the Seattle Mariners games in the Kingdom. And it was the mid-90s, it was 95, 96? 96 was the year I think that the Seattle Mariners won the division. And
Sure.
that was A-Rod's rookie year, and Jay Buhner was on the squad, Ken Griffey Jr., like we were totally stacked. But basically, you know, I would play shortstop. A-Rod was best friends with Derek Jeter, so I kind of like had my eye on Jeter, who was also shortstop. And basically, once they dismantled that Mariners team, everybody from that team had done stints on the Yankees. So I was just like, I kind of just followed the players over there, and then, yeah,
Became a Yankees fan. Cool.
I became a Yankees fan. But I still follow the Mariners. I still follow the Padres. Because I was in San Diego for 25 years. So I have multiple teams.
Yeah. And Heather, are you Dodgers or Angels?
This is a complicated answer. My family are all Dodgers fans,
Which
so I am
tracks
a Dodgers
which
fan by default.
where your family is from. Yep.
Exactly. Yeah. We're from Pasadena. We're from the LA area. So yes, Dodgers. But I always, I grew up, I went to high school in Laverne, which is fairly closer to Anaheim, I would say. And so we would go to a lot of Angels games. One, because it was kind of a little bit more of an accessible field for us to get to, rather than having to kind of like fight our way through Los Angeles.
To spaghetti to get to Dodger Stadium.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so we would go to a lot of Angels games, and I really enjoy watching them play. They're a really fun team to watch play live. I was briefly an Oakland A's fan because I had a boyfriend who was who ended up being like a minor league baseball player, and his favorite team were the A's, and so I kind of, sort of adopted them for how like some people sort of disappear into their boyfriends into their partners and sort of change their personality. I was like that, but like with baseball teams. So like whatever baseball team my partner was into, that's the team that I was into. My husband is not a baseball fan, so that sort of left me open to kind of root for whoever. At this point in my life, I love the Dodgers. They're also an extremely fun team to watch play. But I also have this kind of goal in my life to go to every single baseball stadium and buy a baseball cap from there and sort of do that. So last year I made Bob go to Fenway Park with me, and we went to see the Red Sox play. And it was so much fun. And so I have a very special place in my heart for them. The Red Sox are also my brother-in-law, my sister's husband's team.
And technically my arch nemesis.
Yeah, I was like, careful.
Their whole thing is
careful what you say, bro.
I know. But I don't know. I think I just like baseball in general.
That's where I am. I'm a baseball fan. I've always been a baseball fan. It was always on in my house. I grew up playing softball. My brother grew up playing baseball. Like, it's just like always been beautiful sport for me, right? Like, it's just like this beautiful entertainment. I love the mental gymnastics of the game, both playing and watching, which is just awesome. But yeah, I grew up, I don't know, like as a kid, I don't remember, like maybe like my dad has always been a Dodgers fan, at least since I remember. So there's that. And then my brother and my mom are also Dodgers fans. And I chose the Angels when I was in high school, when they were in their Cinderella year, just going for it. And I think I also chose it to be in contrast to the rest of my family. But I haven't like followed the Angels in quite some time. And being back in my hometown, close to my parents, I am inundated with everything Dodgers all the time. So I don't call myself a Dodger fan, but like I now know the players and I know who the coaches are, and like I don't like actively follow them, but I can like engage in the conversations because I'm inundated about it all the time, and they're fun to watch. Baseball's fun to watch. I just really enjoy watching baseball.
Dodger Dabbler.
Love that.
Yeah, Dodger Dabbler.
Dodger Dabbler in a heavy Dodger family.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I live near the high school, and I can see the baseball field, and I can also hear the games, and so it's just like, and they have batting cage, and you can hear it. It's zen. It's that I can even just have a baseball game going on in the background, and just that like soft crowd noise and the occasional crack of the bat and stuff. You're just like, oh my god,
that like fills me up in my heart. That sound,
and then put me there eating a hot dog with a beer. I'm done.
Girl. I love it so much. I
I worked on...
It's like, I mean...
Oh, I was going to say, when I was in college, going to Dodger Stadium, Angel Stadium, the Giants Stadium, and in Oakland, right? Like, I went to all four of them within 4 years doing stuff. I made it a specific mission to find the best nachos at every stadium. Those obviously have changed now, 15 years later, whatever. But I just remember, like, at Angel Stadium, there was, like, the outfield nacho cart was insane, because it was the helmet bowl, and then it wasn't just like cheese, it was actually like loaded, like meat, jalapenos, salsa. Right, it was like full on nacho, and I feel like in 2007 it was maybe only $20 instead of $40 question mark.
Yeah 40 and some.
No, there's just something about baseball that sort of, the community around it is really lovely. I don't feel the same about, like I've gone to a couple of football games, I've gone to a couple of basketball games, and the energy I've never been to a professional football soccer match. I imagine, just based on things I've heard, I imagine that the energy and community in a soccer football stadium and a baseball stadium are like relatively similar. Just again, in that that community that you find,
can confirm that
is really I love that. And it kind of reminds me of the community, the wine community too, is that you get gather around a table with a glass of wine and food and delicious food, and you just fucking yap like this. And then you go to a baseball game or a soccer match, and you're sitting there in the stand with all these people. And even when the person who's sitting in front of you is rooting for the opposite team, it still feels really fun and well-meaning. I don't know. It's maybe all of my experiences have been different from others, but when we were at Fenway Park, we were sitting next to this guy who he was keeping score and like tracking runs and all the things. It was really lovely, and it was really fun because since Bob had never been to a professional baseball game before, he didn't know what was going on. He was just there for vibes and because I was excited about it. And so we got to talk to this guy, and he told us a story. He's like, I have season tickets. I have 3 kids. I bring one of my kids to every single game. And so it's just a nice time for me to spend with my kids and to have this experience. And there was a guy sitting in front of us who was rooting for the Orioles. And he was like the only Orioles fan in like a nice little radius of Red Sox fans, and the Orioles ended up winning. And, we were joking with him and, teasing him a little bit, and he was teasing us back and ribbing. And then when he won, like, he was a very graceful winner and we were very graceful losers. And it was just lovely. It was so nice. Yeah. And I haven't really experienced that in other sports arenas.
Yeah. I love baseball. It's really interesting. Yeah. Actually, I'm going to connect wine and baseball. Ready?
Do it.
Let's do it.
So I was reading an article that my dad sent me yesterday just about that the world of people, fan base, and even not fan base, just people in general engaging with professional baseball is diminishing. There are significant less attendance. I think just in general, we as humans have much less of an attention span, and baseball games are usually like a minimum of 3 hours of playtime, right? And so the article was just talking about kind of like what are the things that there's been rule changes over the last couple years that are like pretty big changes that are happening with like time clocks, and I think they've been rolling things out in the minor leagues. Like there's an automatic ball strike review that's coming, ? To kind of try to mitigate human error with things, right? Anyway, it's interesting where you have this kind of a squeeze, right, on baseball in general of how much the sport is being engaged with, being liked, dollars going to it, right? Like consumer dollars going to it. Mm-hmm. That is exactly what's happening with wine right now, right? Like we are seeing this like significant squeeze. There's a lot of reasons for that, but that we are seeing that. How is the wine industry, specifically like for me, right? Like on the central coast of California, right? Like that's my home, and I am feeling that here. What are we going to do to evolve? What kind of rule changes, in air quotes, right? Like, are we going to implement as a bigger industry to help that? Because there's only so much that I can do as my brand, as my baseball team, right? To be able to bring people in. But there's a bigger things that the industry as a whole need to be looking at to kind of help the entire industry.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yep. Well done. Good connection point.
It's only because my dad sent me that article yesterday, so.
I love it.
Thanks, Billy.
Thinking about it.
Thanks, Billy.
Thanks, Billy.
Always coming through with the knowledge.
I have a question. What do you think, kind of tying in even just what the industry can do better as a whole, what can the wine industry do specifically to support mental health in the industry? I mean, we saw it in 2020, wine professionals and wine hospitality were in the trenches along with restaurants in a lot of ways. And in 2020, we saw some shit. So how does the wine industry support that moving forward?
I don't fucking know, Kristen. I guess I have some ideas.
You have ideas.
Yeah. I mean, so something that I learned, right, that Foxen learned, that like I learned as one of the leaders, specifically during 2020, was that no matter how important I think my business is to my employees, nothing is more important than them spending time with their loved ones. Nothing is more important than that. Which that was big, like 2020, right? Someone gets sick and you're like, fuck, are they going to die in 2 weeks? We don't fucking know. Like, we don't know.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so it was for us, right? Like we figured out 4 roles that could have more flexibility of being in office or not. We figured out a way to make that work even when it was like, okay, like everybody can go back to office, etc., whatever. We figured out a way to make that work so that people can prioritize spending time with their family. We're a little bit out in the sticks. It's about 25 minutes to a half hour to get to us from any of kind of the main town points in San Ynez Valley or up in Santa Maria. And so have that time back. If we don't need you to be here and you can get your job done and still be connected to the team, right? Like there's some give and take with that. All of that affects mental health, right? Like of being able to spend time with your loved ones, hopefully, right? You hope most cases where you have a positive, loving relationship with the people that you want to spend time with means that my people, my employees, are going to be the better or best versions of themselves when they are giving their time to Foxen, right? Like I'm paying them for their time, but like, they're also giving their time, right? Like they are giving their time, their energy to me, right? To my business, to my family's business. And I need to make sure that I am valuing them in ways that's more than just money. And that's something that we've tried to stick to, again, like where it makes sense, etc. But that's something that we at least, learned and implemented, and, where people in the wine business can do that. I know it's hard because like so much of the things that we do are in person, right? Like with like tasting rooms and doing, even like on the distribution side, freaking reps have to go visit accounts in person, right? Like it's hard to do things in the bigger kind of hospitality world, not being there in person for in-person connection, but it's, when you can do it.
Yeah. Well, speaking as the partner of one of your employees, my husband works at Foxen. It's been really nice simply from just watching him work for people before Foxen who did not value his mental health and did not value his time as a person and his safety. I won't name names, but it was not great. And it was affecting his mental health intensely. Towards the end of his tenure there, he was coming home grumpy. And like, if you know Bob, he is the nicest guy on the planet. Like I've had people describe him that way. Like his old employers, well before this one, describing him as the nicest person you will ever meet. Like he is so kind and he is so thoughtful and he is so good at what he does that it was really hard to watch him come home and not be that. Not that he wasn't being nice. It was just that he was tense and frustrated and upset, and he would come home just like not happy, and then he'd have to go to work the next day, and so he was in his head all the time, and get the Sunday scaries really bad. Going and working for Foxen, he comes home and he's like feels fulfilled, he feels cared for, and he it takes a minute to recover from that. Like he is unlearning it, and he is starting to feel his value and worth and how happy and healthy he is. So just long story long, it's appreciated. Feel like he's back to his self, his usual self of being, the nicest guy on the planet and and all that. And it's because Foxen treats him well and gives a shit about him, gives a shit about his mental health, and gives a shit about his work-life balance,
Yeah. It's and I was saying that we learned some things in 2020 of just kind of like how we can, make decisions to prioritize our people. I do have to say a caveat with that, right? That's also within reason, right? Like you can't run a successful business only focusing on that, which like I don't want to say, right? Like all of my heart is like, no, I want to pay my people $1 billion and like, I don't care. And everybody deserves to be treated like they're the king and queen, and like nobody has to work, but still work has to get done somehow. It's still within reason, but like find ways that you can, and don't treat people like they're expendable. Just treating people like they are humans, that they're valued and that they're worth it. They are worth your attention and your love and your employment, right? They're your employees, but like they choose to be there. Keep them, In kind of the bigger picture of just mental well-being in general, it's hard. There are, being a small business, right? Like bigger businesses tend to have more access to resources, but I would just recommend really for any company really, hey, does your payroll software come with benefits and employee assistance program? Oh, it does? Tell your employees about it. Mm-hmm. If you happen to be an ADP customer, Foxen used to be, we're not anymore, but if you happen to be an ADP customer, That's comes with it. It's built in. And you get, as an employee, you get like 12 calls a year to a licensed professional to at least get you started if there's someone that you need to talk to. And it's free. It's built in. So, right. So for folks who are maybe decision makers in the company, and for folks who are not decision makers and who are individual contributors, and, you know, are the people who maybe, anyone who feels like they could be struggling or just want some perspective from a mental health professional, ask, right? Hey, is this something that we have? Because you won't know unless you ask. And I think there's a lot of that out there that we don't have. There may also be some like free resources. You know, as I mentioned earlier, I am privileged to be in a position financially where I can afford to go to weekly therapy right now. And I'm prioritizing that. I'm budgeting for it, but that is not the case for so many people. And so finding, you know, having resources that are free or low cost, or even just like things that you can listen to help yourself to think about things in just like a different way is helpful as well. Just as us as individuals. Yeah.
I think there's something draining, especially about when you're customer facing. That alone takes a big toll. It's kind of why I stepped back, just because it genuinely felt like an energy suck. And there was a lot of great moments and people that I would meet, and it's very uplifting. It can be very uplifting, but it also feels like you're just dealing with the general public, and it's rough sometimes. And that was really affecting. It just was affecting my day to day, professionally and personally. And that was really I took a step back from direct customer service just because I just was like, I don't think I'm actually built for this long term.
Yeah.
I think just realizing that that's a lot of the things why I wanted to start going into therapy was just because of kind of all those experiences and how it affected me, and how do I reframe interacting with people ever again, because after 2020, I didn't want to talk to anybody ever again.
Yeah, we're all still dealing with that, aren't we?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think this is true of like anyone kind of in hospitality and service industry, right? That face-to-face contact with people, and even on the phone, right? Like it's just like that direct people interaction. You know, you're doing that for 4 or 5 days a week, potentially up to 8, maybe 9 hours a day. And for me, sometimes you just end up focusing on the negative interactions that you have because you feel it more, right? They stand out more, which like sucks, because that's not why you do it. That's not why you're in the hospitality industry. That's not why we're in the wine industry, right? Like we're in it to provide these bits, this combination of art and science that creates a connection, that this tells this really cool story, however you want that to be. That's why we're in it. We're in it to create those connections, to share the stories, to have those beautiful, positive interactions with folks. But that sometimes you just end up having like the negative, or, you know, like talking about wine clubs, the primary population that was the first people to join wine clubs are aging out of drinking alcohol, and we're having folks die. And it's awful. You know, like you're the wine club manager or anybody in the tasting room, whatever, like you're the person who picks up the phone and it's like, hey, like, I'm
Decline credit card.
John Doe's daughter, and I unfortunately need to tell you that like my dad passed away, or it's the widow or the widower, and you're just like, well, that's a really human moment. Now I'm crying, and like, God.
I had that moment where I was talking to the widow. It was actually it was like a boating accident or something.
No.
It wasn't even like an aging out thing. It was like just some freak thing. And it happened relatively recent to that phone call. And just, she started crying, and it was so hard. It was just hard. There's no other way to describe it. That's what we deal with when you are in wine hospitality. It's just that connection, and then having to kind of deal with.
Yeah, or people yelling at you as well. That's fun.
Or
too.
people yelling at you.
That too.
Yeah.
Or wine.
Yeah. Anyway,
Over
so
wine.
I guess something that like we ourselves can try to do is, and then the decision makers in a business, right? Give your people space. If you have a moment where like you've seen that like someone just had a really hard conversation, step in, right? Like say like, hey, like that seemed like it shook you pretty bad. Do you want to go for a walk alone or with me? We don't have to talk. We can go silent. Like, do you want human connection? Do you not want human connection? That reminder that folks aren't in, like when a day or an hour or a minute is shitty, we're not in this by ourselves.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Thanks.
That was really lovely.
I mean, I think we looped it back around, you know. I was thinking about looping it back to the beginning of what we were talking about, where I was talking about, you know, thinking about those moments of joy, right? Especially just coming off of what we were literally just talking about, of being in hospitality is hard. Being in winemaking is hard, right? Like doing the things in the wine industry and in the bigger hospitality industry are hard. You get exhausted, you get peopled out, right? Like you have a conversation where somebody's just like yelling at you for 5 minutes and you're like, I'm just trying to get your wine to you. That's all I want to do.
Yeah.
Please don't yell at me.
Yep.
But doing what we can as individuals, what, you know, I try to do as a business leader, what I'm hoping that I can, you know, convince other business leaders to do is, you know, finding that space and just reminding your people, reminding yourself that like those 2 recent things that brought you joy are there, right? Like they are there.
Yeah. They don't get canceled out just because something awful happened.
Correct.
Or,
Yep.
you know, yeah.
Yep.
They still exist. They can exist alongside each other. And we are capable of feeling so many things at the same time. And that's good. That makes us human.
Yep.
Yeah. I love that. Well, before we completely sign off, what have you been drinking lately that you've been really excited about?
Well, I was going to like mention it when we were talking about that we had gone out for Kristen's birthday. And I was like, oh, I can mention it now, but this is a better time. But just so Foxen is gearing up for our 40th anniversary celebration. That is, anyway, it's this year. And we've been tasting through a bunch of library wines. And one that we tasted recently was a 2007 Chenin Blanc that I did happen to bring to Kristen's birthday dinner. And
So freaking good.
it blew me away.
so
It blew me
yummy.
away when I first tasted it. It extra blew me away at dinner. It's a 2007. It was not drinking like it was 17 and a half years old. It was drinking like it was, I don't know, maybe 7 years old. She was still fresh and vibrant. It was a unique wine that Foxen made that year because it had a little bit of sweetness, like a little bit of residual sugar, which we do not usually make our Chenin Blanc that way. I think that maybe might be the only one that we've ever done that way. And it just, I think it lended it so well to how it aged. It just, oh God, it was gorgeous. Like gorgeous.
But the residual sugar, it was like not even really totally perceivable. Like it just helped
No,
round
it's
it
like
out.
maybe like
Yeah.
it's just
It was
like
so well balanced.
like barely off dry, right? Like you're looking at like maybe
yeah.
right like I don't know 4 to 6 grams, right? Like a little tiny amount, not a lot at all. Yeah,
just enough to like give it some really, really nice mouthfeel.
Yeah.
It was
And balance out that acidity.
beautiful.
Yeah.
So good.
It was lovely. Really, really lovely. Honestly, that's my contribution to this conversation as well. Is I haven't stopped talking about it, to be frank.
Yeah, I like keep thinking about it.
What about you, Kristen? Do you have a wine or any beverage that you
Yes.
have had recently?
Mine, I think I subconsciously opened a Foxen because I knew we had this on the calendar. So I had opened the 2021 Morvet and oh my God, it was so good.
That's pretty rad.
So good.
Yeah.
We don't do 100% Morvedra very often. I think maybe before.
Well, you should.
Well, before 2021, I think we did it once. And we only did it in magnums because it was like we didn't have very much. But it was from the same vineyard that the 2021 did. So it was, I think, like 2008, I think, was that Morvedra. And one of my employees who has been with us for coming up on 25 years or something insane. I think she maybe still has one. Because I feel like we like talk about it every now and then. And she's like, no, I think I still have one in my deep wine room. And I'm like, can you bring it? And she's like, I mean, no. I'm like, please.
You want it?
Rude.
It's good.
And then
And I think I just had it with some like chicken or something. Chicken and brown rice. It was like cumin, like,
yum.
yeah.
That sounds fucking
Yeah.
delightful. Well, this was so
Thanks
delightful.
for joining us.
Yes. Thank you for being our very first guest.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
More memories.
We didn't honor
Yeah.
that.
I know. I feel
First
like-
guest.
Okay. Well, thank you all so much.
Thank you.
I love you. You
Love
are
you
so
all.
wonderful.
Thanks.
And we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Heck yeah, man.
All right.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Cool. Love yous. Bye.
Take care.